and welcome to the Committee on Municipal Government and Housing. Today is Thursday, March 25th, 2021. We are meeting in the House Lounge. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Chairman Hull.
Present.
First Vice Chair Fogarty.
Present.
Second Vice Chair Speakman.
Present.
Representative Alzate. Representative Barrows.
Present.
Representative Cardillo.
Present.
Representative Edwards. Representative Kazarian.
Here.
Representative Charlene Lima. Representative Stephen Lima.
Present.
Representative Morales.
Present.
Representative Morgan.
Present.
Representative Price.
Present.
Representative Shanley. Representative Williams.
Present.
That completes the attendance. You have a quorum.
Yes, Chairman, I would like to hold for further studies House Bill 5479, 5587, 5588, 5633, 6093, 6125, 6126, and 6139.
We have a roll call vote, please.
Is there a
Motion to approve.
Motion.
And second?
Second.
Yes. It's been moved and seconded?
Yep.
Do we have a roll call vote then, Tony?
Roll call vote. It's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
There was a motion moved by Representative Kazarian, seconded by Representative Fogarty to hold the following bills for further study: House Bill 5479, House Bill 5587, House Bill 5588, House Bill 5633, House Bill 6093, House Bill 6125, House Bill 6126, and House Bill 6139. Chairman Hull, is that your vote?
Yes.
First Vice Chair Fogarty, is that your vote?
Yes.
Second Vice Chair Speakman, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Barrows, is that your vote? Representative Cardillo, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Kazarian, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Lima, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Morales, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Morgan, is that your vote? Yes. Representative Price, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Alzate, there was a motion to hold for further study the following bills: House Bill 5479, 5587, 5588, 5633, 6093, 6125, 6126, and 6139. Is it your vote to hold those bills for further study?
Yes.
That completes the roll call vote. The motion carries.
Okay. In interest of time, and I'm looking at a list over here of people who are on the phone, we will now move to 5633. First Vice Chair Fogarty.
House Bill 5633 from Representative Quarterfriend is an act relating to towns and city ordinances, all cities and towns to create ordinances to regulate the use of sale of cigarettes and other tobacco products. Representative Quarterfriend is here, and she may begin her testimony.
Thank you. I didn't expect to go first. Thank you, Chairman and committee members. As you said, I'm here for House Bill H5633. This bill would provide enabling legislation for committees, for town councils to set up their own ordinances regarding tobacco products, and that would include vaping products as well. This comes to me from the American Lung Association, and it came to my attention because one of the towns I represent tried to do this, and I believe Providence did too. and they got caught up with, in legislation from the tobacco companies that did not want them to be able to enact this. So I think we'll have I hope we have somebody on the line. Are there any people testifying? Great,
We have it. Thank you, Representative.
thank you.
So are there any questions for Representative Quarterfriend on House Bill 5633? Representative Morgan.
You know, I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I just don't think we can have a hodgepodge of this town will have it, that town won't, this town will say you can have it, certain products, and other town says you can't. We're small enough, and I think trying to do this stuff at the municipal level just doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Could I make one more comment?
Sure, Representative Quarterfriend.
I know previous to serving here, I was on the Portsmouth School Committee, and we had just a huge problem pre-pandemic with vaping with the kids, and that's really what attracted me to this, and that's why I was following along. And so that's my personal motivation, is it's just been so easy for kids to get materials that they are too young to have, and I think towns should be able to regulate that more closely. They're the ones right on the ground, and so, thank you.
I have my hand up.
Yeah, as far as children or teenagers getting vaping products, I think that's already prohibited by state law. So I don't know why a town would have to then enact an ordinance to keep it out of the vaping products out of the hands of children.
Thank you.
Again, I mean, having a hodgepodge of every municipality deciding to regulate different things at different times, it just doesn't, I think it's bad policy.
Okay, thank you. Representative Williams, Chairwoman Williams, I believe did you have your hand up before? Oh, you don't want to do it anymore? Okay. All right, we will go on to phone call-ins, and we have Timothy Andrews on the line. He is from the Americans for Tax Reform, and he is opposed to the bill. Mr. Andrews, you have the floor. You have 2 minutes to let us know your opinion on this, on House Bill 5633.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the committee for the opportunity to provide testimony this evening. I'm not going to discuss the issues of the science regarding reduced risk vapor products, because I think the overwhelming evidence that they're 95% safer than combustible tobacco is well known. This isn't an issue about the science of vaping. Rather, this is an issue as to whether the state or localities are best placed to regulate these products. I would submit on behalf of Americans for Tax Reform that the evidence clearly shows that this is a state issue where a simple patchwork of municipal and local authorities is not in the interests of the citizens. This is an issue whereby it affects state revenue, and it is an issue where the state has the opportunity to provide, through testimony, through hearings, through legislation, far better scrutiny and accountability than a locality ever could. We don't need to go and discuss whether or not this is for the science of vaping and reduced risk products. Rather, this is simply a question of who is best to regulate this, and the expertise at the state level is what is such that it is the most appropriate way to do this. Therefore, I would support the concept that this should be done at the state level, and local governments should not have that authority. Thank you once again for your time and for listening to our testimony. All of the evidence and the other points that I referred to are in the written testimony that we submitted.
Thank you. We did receive your written testimony, Mr. Andrews. Are there any questions for Mr. Andrews? No, thank you again, sir. All right, hearing, he's finished. So are you on? Please hold while we get a caller on the phone.
Sure.
Okay, so next we have Megan Tucker on the phone.
Can you hear us?
Megan? Megan?
Yes.
Oh, hi, Megan. You are here to testify on House Bill 5633. Please be brief. We'll give you 2 minutes to discuss your perspective, and you are from the American Heart Association, and you are in support of the bill. Go right ahead.
That is correct. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Megan Tucker, and I'm with the American Heart Association, and we would like to voice strong support for House Bill 5633, and we thank Rep. Quarterfriend for her leadership on this issue. We have some amazing youth advocates in Rhode Island who have worked closely with cities and town councils to identify and enact policy solutions aimed at protecting their friends, classmates, and siblings from the harms of tobacco and e-cig use. Sadly, their efforts to inspire change in their communities were silenced by lawsuits brought by the tobacco industry and retailers when the courts ruled that state preemption is implied. Some of our greatest public health advancements have come from the local level. Smoke-free air started at the local level before the General Assembly passed the Public Health and Workplace Safety Act many years ago. A tremendous amount of tobacco policy work is done at the local level in our neighboring states of Massachusetts and Connecticut. Rhode Island residents and municipalities should have the same opportunity. We ask that the committee give power back to our cities and towns and give youth in your communities their voice back. Empower them to stand up to the industry that is targeting them as replacement smokers and tobacco users. Thank you for your consideration, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Megan. You were even under time. Very, very well done. Is there anybody who has questions for Megan? No, Megan, hearing none, we do appreciate your testimony. Thank you and have a good evening.
Great. Thank you.
Next, we have Daniel Fitzgerald. Daniel? Daniel, are you there?
I sure am.
All right, Daniel's again from the American Lung Association, and he's also in support. So you have the floor. You have 2 minutes to discuss the bill with us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and good afternoon, members of the House Committee on Municipal Government and Housing. As was said, my name is Daniel Fitzgerald. I work for the American Lung Association as our National Senior Manager of Advocacy, and I serve as our advocacy lead here in the state of Rhode Island. The Lung Association strongly supports House Bill 5633, which would give back power to local municipalities to implement and enforce local tobacco control policies. Here in Rhode Island, a third of our young people currently use a tobacco product, and we still lose upwards of 1,800 Rhode Islanders each and every year from tobacco-related death and disease. And while we have made tremendous progress through efforts here at the State House, we also need local action to keep fighting the tobacco epidemic. And as was mentioned, towns like Barrington, Middletown, Johnston, and Providence are just some of the municipalities that have been faced with lawsuits or threats of litigation by the tobacco industry and retailers if they passed and enforced local tobacco ordinances. Our cities and towns are literally being bullied into backing down from evidence-based public health policies designed to address the health and well-being of their citizens. And to the point that Representative Quarterfriend made, from a health equity standpoint, the use of local knowledge to forge community-specific solutions enables our municipalities to empower a targeted approach to combat health disparities and ensure equitable access to better public health. So with that said, the Lung Association urges you to support this bill. Your leadership in doing so will save lives, and each of our local cities and towns will be healthier for it. And if you are interested in any more information, I would just urge that you take a look at our written testimony that we submitted with nearly 15 other local public health and medical partners. So thank you, Representative Quarterfriend. Thank you for introducing this bill. Thanks to all the sponsors, and thank you to each of the members of this committee for your dedication to this important issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Are there any questions for Daniel? Representative Morales has a question.
Yep. Mr. Fitzgerald, thank you so much for that informative testimony. Could you provide us with examples of different types of ordinances that different cities and towns in our state have tried to enact in regards to tobacco or other products as such?
Sure, and I'd be happy to send over some more specifics, but some examples. Several cities and towns in our state have enacted local tobacco retail licenses so that they have better understanding of who is selling what products in their communities, and that, specifically from the standpoint of enabling their local police force to better enforce what's being sold there. Some other communities like Barrington and Central Falls passed Tobacco 21 ordinances. As we know, that's not yet been at a state level, even though it is federal law. The enforcement of that has not been able to be at a local level. So those are just two examples. Hopefully that's helpful.
Oh, Representative Morales has another question. Go right ahead.
Yes, no, definitely is. So thank you for that context as well. In total, do we have an estimate of how many, from the 39 cities and towns in our state, how many of them have also tried to enact other forms of ordinances? I know you named Central Falls and Barrington as an example.
Yeah, I know that for local tobacco retail licenses, there's probably close to a dozen. We have the ones I mentioned: West Warwick, Woonsocket, Richmond, Cranston, Tiverton, Coventry, Warwick. So quite a few there with those, and then certainly far more with things like smoke-free indoor and outdoor ordinances as well. But I'd be happy to send some of that over if that'd be helpful.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much, because it definitely seems like this is a policy that, given that every community is different, everyone is tackling it in either a similar fashion or making tweaks based on, again, their respective community. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Daniel, thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it. And next we will move on to Vernia Carter. Vernia, are you there? Vernia?
This is Jasmine.
Oh, Jasmine, I'm sorry. We'll jump to Jasmine Rios, and you are with the Youth for Central, and you support this bill. You have the floor on House Bill 5633. Go right ahead.
Thank you.
And keep your testimony to 2 minutes, please. I'm sorry, I shouldn't let you know. Thank you.
It's great, thank you. Hello. Hello, my name is Jasmine Rios, a senior at Central Falls High School. I recently moved to Providence, but have lived in Central Falls since 2017. I am a youth advocate who cares about tobacco prevention because I want to help those who don't have a voice and to help our youth grow without having access to toxic chemicals from tobacco. You see, Central Falls is a city that is 1.5 square miles, which fits into Westerly Rhode Island 10 or more times. Westerly has only 2 stores that sell tobacco, compared to Central Falls, who has 19 stores, due to their hard work of many. A local zoning policy that was passed helped their city go from 36 stores who are allowed to sell tobacco to only 19. This was important because less stores selling tobacco in Central Falls means tobacco is less accessible for teens to get. When teens enter a store, there is a checkout that has a display of candy, ice cream, chargers, and other items, and their thought is to buy a snack to eat or something they will need later. But as they look around, they notice those tobacco products as if it were saying, "Hello, I'm right here, buy me." Having the temptation and curiosity increase their desire of wanting it, and they will create ways to get it. The tobacco industry is always looking for ways to replace smokers, and retailers need to earn more money. Cashiers might ignore their age, not care about their education or mental health, accept bribes, and ask them to tell their friends and people they may know that they can get tobacco products here. Limiting the amount of stores that can sell tobacco and CF helps reduce access to tobacco products. Our city council knows this and passed a zoning policy. They also raised the tobacco sales age in Central Falls from 18 to 21 and stopped all stores from being able to sell any flavored tobacco products, which includes e-cigarettes. However, they were threatened by a lawsuit, and since then haven't been able to enforce any of these policies or pass any new ones. More teens are able to purchase tobacco products, and more stores are able to sell them. Our city council knows what is best for us because they want teens to be healthy and not to have any obstacle stopping them from what they want for their future.
Excuse me,
Our
Jasmine.
local government...
Jasmine, excuse me.
Yeah?
Yes,
We hear what you're saying, and we're up against a time limit here. If you have written testimony, we'd be more than happy to take it and enter it into the record. But we're limited to 2 minutes for everyone. So I would like
Okay.
I'd like to open up for questions if someone
Yes.
has questions for you.
is there anybody who has any questions on the committee for Jasmine? Representative Morales.
I just want to say it is always a pleasure to hear from our youth, especially those who are testifying based on their lived experience and the impact that a bill like this would have on the lives of themselves and their families. So thank you very much, Jasmine. We really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you for listening.
Are there any other questions for Jasmine? And Jasmine, you did a great job. I do appreciate you calling in. You made some very valid points. Thank you. All right, so next we have, we've got Verena Carter. And Verena is in support of the bill. Verena, hi. You're here to testify. You're here to testify on House Bill 5633. The floor is yours. You may start now, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Hi, respected committee members. My name is Mac Barber, and I own 2 convenience stores across the city lines. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak in opposition of HB 5633. Today,
Excuse me,
Joe
Matt?
Biden.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Just your first name again, please, so we're on the right person.
Mac, are you Mac Barber?
Mac.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Proceed, Matt.
Sorry, Mac.
Thank you.
And you are opposed to the bill. Go right ahead. Start again. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, my name is Mac Barber, and thank you so much for allowing me to speak in opposition of HB 5633. Today, Joe Biden, in his first news conference, said that he campaigned on an economic platform to shore up the middle class, because the middle class is the backbone of this country. And as a small business owner, we are the backbone of this country and this state. House Bill 5633 will only do the opposite of what the president campaigned for. During these difficult times, convenience stores are already struggling to stay open. We pay taxes, create jobs, and support the local community economy. We protect our underage youth from buying any tobacco product and strictly abide by the common sense law, only selling to age 21 and older. We only do this because we want our communities to remain safe and healthy, and we also have all family members. Tobacco products are a critical part of the convenience store business and are already very heavily regulated in our state. HB 5633 will only make a confusing patchwork of regulations. This bill, I believe, is a tantamount to create a state within a state. The state should have the full writ on the local government, so we have uniform regulation across the board. I urge you to please oppose this bill and protect small businesses like our convenience store. And let's work together to make our great state of Rhode Island a healthy and business-friendly state, and bring the economy back on track and get people back to work. Thank you so much for giving me the time.
Thank you very much, Mac. You did a timing with the timing. And are there any questions for Mac? No, hearing none, we appreciate your testimony, sir, and have a good evening. Next, we are going to go to Vernia Carter. Vernia, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, Vernia, you support the bill. The floor is yours. You may speak and you have 2 minutes to speak. Starting now.
Hi, my name is Vernia Carter. I'm from Central Falls, Rhode Island. I am for enabling legislation. I work with youth in Central Falls, and we follow the Rhode Island Health Department's model tobacco policy. All our policies were suspended due to another town trying to follow those policies, which would make their town and city healthier regarding youth, access to flavored tobacco products, and purchasing under 21. We it really helps Central Falls to be looked at differently in Rhode Island. It gave the youth something to be proud about. When we received a letter from a lawyer in Massachusetts who knows nothing about our community telling our Senate, our council president, that if we continued our local policies, tobacco policies, that we could be sued, that was a problem for the youth, the parents, and the people that live in the community. We asked you to please pass the enabling legislative bill. Every community is different, and we want Central Falls to be healthy and be a place for our students that go off to college and come back.
Well, thank you, Vernia.
Thank you.
We appreciate your testimony. Are there any questions for Vernia? No, hearing none. Thank you again for testifying tonight. And we next go on to Danny from SAAD Food Mart, who is opposed to the bill. Danny, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, you have 2 minutes to speak on House Bill 5633. You may start now.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to have my voice heard. My name is Danny Saad. I'm from Saad Food Mart in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. I would like to oppose this bill 5633. It's such a devastating for small businesses. We're not found, especially single store owner. We're not in every city in town. We're not across state line. A bill like this will make migration of customers between cities and towns, which will have a devastating effect into our business. And not only that, it might affect us health-wise. I would like you to consider opposing this bill. It have a devastating effect on our business health-wise, especially we're living in a pandemic like the corona, and devastating where it shifts our customer base between cities and towns.
Oh.
And I would like to thank you. And definitely I'm against kids smoking cigarettes, but that's why the state minimum age is 21.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Danny. Are there any questions for Danny? No, hearing none. Thank you for your testimony, and we will move on now to Rick McAuliffe from the Campaign for Tobacco, and he is in support of this bill. Mr. McAuliffe.
Hi, Madam Chair. How are you?
Very well, and yourself. You have 2 minutes to discuss House Bill 5633.
I will give you 1 minute because I know you have a busy schedule. My name is Rick McAuliffe. I'm here on behalf of the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. We are a national organization active in all 50 states. Our purpose is to make sure that we end tobacco use, flavored cigarette use, electronic device use among our children. It's an epidemic that is getting worse and worse every year. And we support this legislation because we think it's good legislation that'll hopefully curtail, not hopefully, it will curtail tobacco use as well as vaping use among our children 18 and younger. A couple years ago, then Mayor Taveras put some zoning together and some regulations together to ban this, and as you all know, and you probably heard already, unfortunately it was not deemed able to do it because of state law. So we're hopeful that this law that this legislation can pass and become law, and that these children can be protected by good forward-thinking, health people in the community. So we ask for your support on this, and if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. McAuliffe. Are there any questions for Mr. McAuliffe? Seeing none, we appreciate your testimony. Next, we are going to move on to Lindsay Stroud from Taxpayers Protection Alliance, and she is opposed to the bill. Lindsay, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I am. I can hear you. You have 2 minutes to speak on House Bill 5633.
All right, thank you. TPA. TPA is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to educating the public through the research, analysis, and dissemination of information on the government's effects on the economy. I did submit written testimony. I just wanted to highlight a few things as many other states are looking at the issue of preemption. As in 2020, 23 states had preemption laws regarding youth access, and these laws have had minimal effects on addressing e-cigarette use. According to data from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's Youth Risk Behavior Survey, in 2019, among the top 10 states...
Lindsay, excuse me, we're having difficulty hearing you.
Yeah.
If you have written testimony, we'd be more than happy to take that, to enter it into our record, but we're having very terrible time understanding what you're trying to say.
Maybe just slow down a little bit, yeah, but go ahead from where you are.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just start from in the middle. So as of 2020, 23 states had preemption laws regarding youth access, and these laws have had minimal effects on youth e-cigarette use. According to data from the CDC's Youth Risk Behavior Survey, in 2019, among the top 10 states with the highest daily e-cigarette use among high school students, 5 states had preemption laws, and among the states with the 10 lowest daily e-cigarette use rates, 4 had preemption laws blocking localities from imposing age restrictions. The main point that I just want to emphasize is that the Ocean State should spend more money towards tobacco control funding. Between 2000 and 2019, the state only allocated $25.9 million towards tobacco control programs. This is about 1.1% of the cigarette tax revenue received and 2.7% of settlement payments. Again, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. Are there any questions for Lindsay? No, hearing none, we appreciate your testimony. Have a good evening. Next, we go on to Kara Tibbetts. Kara, are you there? You are listed as opposed to the bill, and you can start your testimony now, and you have 2 minutes.
Okay, first off, I'd like to thank the committee for allowing me to speak today. I'm a lifelong Rhode Islander and a vapor industry specialist. I highly oppose Bill H5633 because I think it would do nothing but cause confusion for businesses and adult consumers of these products. With everything the industry and consumers of vapor products in Rhode Island have been through in the past few years, I believe that they deserve clear direction at a state level. I also think having vapor products regulated by city or town could potentially create borders and further separate communities. Small businesses that exist in certain towns or cities affected by extreme regulation may have no choice but to close up shop and to move to a different location. This would affect a vapor shop's customer base drastically, forcing some people who may not be able to travel to another city back to smoking. I personally believe that we need to be focusing on rebuilding our small business population in Rhode Island, not further destroying it with extreme regulation. Thank you again for the chance to speak. I really hope you consider opposing this bill for the greater good of the smokers and for all the small businesses that exist within the vapor industry of Rhode Island. Thank you.
Hello.
We are on House Bill 5633, and you have 2 minutes to discuss your proposed amendment.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Yep, you can start speaking on House Bill 5633. Darren, can you start your testimony on House Bill 5633?
Yes, I can. Guys, thank you for letting me speak. My name is Darren Tripoli, owner of Sunshine Vape. We operate out of Warwick, Providence, and South Kingstown. I oppose Bill 5633. I think states should regulate, not individual towns and cities. Confusion would be an obvious reason. Another would be forcing a longstanding business to close or to lose revenue with no language indicating any relief or protection from the cities, towns, or states. Just seems like every year we have the same type of bill for a small minority of people to feel happy or accomplished, and it just does not really achieve much. That's it. I oppose the bill, and thank you for letting me speak.
All right. Well, thank you very much for you calling in this evening. Are there any questions for Darren? Seeing none, thank you and have a good evening. And next we move on to James DeBrulio. James, I'm sorry, I might have pronounced your name wrong. James, you are calling, you're opposed to the bill, and you have 2 minutes to discuss your point of view on House Bill 5633, starting now.
All right, hi, my name is James DeBrulio. I'm against the bill. The simple fact is that it's just going to create a lot of issues. If different cities and towns come up with banning vaping and then some don't, it's just going to cause a lot of chaos and a lot of issues. So I think Rhode Island should come up with one bill, and that's followed all over Rhode Island. It shouldn't be cities and towns And that's why I'm against it.
Okay.
If anybody got any questions, I would be happy to answer it.
Okay, are there any questions for James? Seeing none? Thank you, James, for your testimony. We appreciate you calling in. Next, we have Alex Clark on the line from the Consumer Advocate, and he is also opposed to the bill. Alex, are you there?
Speaking, yes.
Okay, Alex, you have 2 minutes to discuss your opposition to House Bill 5633, starting now.
Excellent, thank you. My name is Alex Clark. I'm the CEO of the Consumer Advocates for Smoke-Free Alternatives Association. We're a national consumer grassroots organization dedicated to promoting and protecting access to low-risk alternatives to smoking. HB 5633 would, as other speakers have noted, create a patchwork of regulation across the state, an already small state that is currently experiencing the failure of a statewide flavor ban. That being the case, there is no reason for anyone to believe that taking a failed policy at the state level down to the municipal level will have a different outcome. So we are opposed to HB 5633, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak on behalf of our 1,500 members in Rhode Island tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Are there any questions for Alex? Seeing none, again, thank you, Alex, for calling in this evening. And next, we are going to move on to Lisa Chiarleone from Vaporetta LLC. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, Lisa. So you have, you have 2 minutes to discuss your opposition to House Bill 5633, starting now. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Lisa Chiarleone. I'm a Rhode Island resident and the owner of Vapor Ready located in East Providence. I am testifying today to urge you to please oppose this bill as it would interfere with state and federal law. I have serious concerns about vapor products being included in this legislation as it would give cities and towns the power to ban and restrict the sales or use of the products adults are using to refrain from smoking deadly cigarettes that still kill 480,000 Americans per year. This legislation would also allow city officials to pass any new law they want with just the stroke of a pen and a vote from 5 city council members. This will create a slippery slope for new laws to be enacted without state supervision. It could have unintended consequences. It would also make it easy for special interest groups to target our local officials, which is why we need government oversight when passing new laws that would directly impact our residents and businesses. In closing, as you all know, Rhode Island is the smallest state in the country. If this legislation passes, there potentially could be 39 different laws and regulations for vapor products in our state, which will cause confusion and make it difficult for residents and businesses to comply. It would also put businesses in one city at a disadvantage of another. It is imperative we preserve Rhode Island's Constitution in the legislative process, which is why I urge you to oppose this bill today. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Are there any questions for Lisa? No, thank you for your very powerful testimony, Lisa. And next, we are going to move on to Gregory Conley from America Vaping Association, who's also opposed. Gregory, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you have 2 minutes to start discussing House Bill, your opposition to House Bill 5633.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, thank you for having me. My name is Gregory Conley. I run a 501c4 nonprofit called the American Vaping Association, which advocates for sensible public health policies designed to reduce America's smoking rate. And we would like to oppose H 5633 because individual cities ultimately should not be permitted to take away the ability of existing business owners to operate. We recognize and have great sympathy for those towns that over the last 10 years, after a federal court had said that Providence's restrictions on tobacco products were not preempted by federal law, some cities took that to mean, yes, we can. And ultimately, some local enforcement is a good thing. But as revealed in a detailed article this week in the Chronicle of Philanthropy, Michael Bloomberg is providing $160 million in funding to groups that are not pushing for regulation. They are not pushing for enforcement. They are pushing for prohibition. And there are growing voices within the tobacco control community, including non-conflicted researchers across New England, that are saying these policies will backfire and actually protect cigarette sales. But unfortunately, $160 million can buy you a lot of staffers and media buys to push prohibition at the local level. Representative Casimiro is working on a policy to actually have robust enforcement and a legal market, a safer market here in Rhode Island. I would encourage you to speak to her, but ultimately when it comes to allowing local cities to not just do enforcement, but do prohibition, I encourage you to oppose H 5633 without amendment. Thank you very much. Actually have robust enforcement and a legal market, a safer market.
Dino, can you turn down your,
Yes,
yeah,
I can. I'm just
okay.
trying to give the testimony.
Okay,
Yep.
so you have 2 minutes to discuss House Bill 5633, starting now.
Yes, my name is Dino Bakari. I'm calling you from North Providence, Rhode Island. I'm a business owner in the state. I am in strong opposition of House Bill 5633. 5548, I believe, I didn't hear it all, but as Greg mentioned, is a very, very good bill, and it has a lot of balance that benefits not only some concerned people here this evening, and also for the business owners here that have spoken. We just got to do our homework. 5548 is going to put 21. Is going to make it 21 over to purchase statewide, and I'm just really shocked to hear that the Lung Association is standing against vapor products. They are proven to be safer than smoking, 95% safer than smoking. Right now, anyone that's listening, whether you're at home or you are hearing testimony right now, the lawmakers here, look at the New York Times. It was printed a year and a half ago. UK hospitals in the United Kingdom, hospitals are literally carving out retail space to open up vapor stores because they know it's safer for their patients and they know it's safer for their staff. Smoking is a killer, and we have to recognize this. It just touches my heart because I know so many people that have quit smoking through vapor products, and just to hear some of the smear that's thrown around is just so unfortunate. Bills like this cause chaos for the customer, chaos for the business owner. It causes chaos. The last thing we need right now is chaos. When chaos happens, people make bad decisions, and we can avoid that. Heart and Lung needs to support Kim Tanzi's bill that bans smoking inside of Twin River Casino. Why are they standing against vaping products?
Well, you'll have to ask them that, Dino.
Well, I'd like to bring it to the table. I think it's a good talking point.
Okay.
For everyone listening.
Thank you for your testimony, Dino. And is there any questions for Dino? Hearing none, we appreciate your testimony. And next, we're going to go on to Dara Starring, who is also opposed to the bill. Dara, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, Dara, you have 2 minutes to discuss House Bill 5633, starting now.
Okay, thank you. So I am strongly opposed to House Bill 5633 because vaping has been proven to be 95% safer than smoking time and time again, and I believe that if we allow cities and towns to regulate the use and sale of vapor products, it would just make it so much harder for adult smokers to access the vapor products that are helping them stay away from cigarettes.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Are there any questions for Dara? Hearing none, Dara, we appreciate you calling in and your testimony. Next, we are going to move on to Vera Pang Chandrayasanti.
Yeah.
How are you this evening?
Good, Howard.
Good. You have 2 minutes starting now to talk about your opposition to House Bill 5633. You may begin.
My name is Vera Pang Chandrayasanti, and I oppose Bill H5633. I used to be a former smoker, and so was many of my friends, and vapor products saved our lives, and I don't believe local government should play a hand in a life-saving product. it would just create a bunch of confusion for many store owners, including my friends who are store owners, and they're already struggling to make it through. And, I really don't believe that we should have to travel to different cities to, purchase vapor products that are proven to save lives.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mayor Pong. Are there any questions from the committee for Mr.
Yes. Yes, please.
Representative Price, please continue.
When you're talking about traveling to different cities to get the products, could you expand on that, please?
Well, I just don't want to have to travel out of state, to purchase a life-saving product when I'm not sure what regulations that these local municipalities are going to be implementing, but, just for future, I think it should be at a state level at 21 plus, which it already is, and not really have to, come down to a local government decision.
So, as it stands now, can you just go to your local place and get the products currently?
Yes, but I'm just looking, ahead of time, because I know that there's always different bills coming out. I'm for H5 548, I believe, but with this bill, I don't believe that local government should play a hand in, vapor products.
Okay, Representative Price, have you had your question answered?
Kind of. So you can get your product now, but if this bill passes, you'd have to go out of state to get your the product that you're getting currently in state?
Representative Price, I believe he answered the question. That will conclude
the testimony from Mr. Verapon. Yes,
Yes,
right
thank
now, yes, he'd have to go out of state if this bill passed, is what he,
Okay, thank you.
I
Thank
just
you very much.
reiterated what he said. Okay, next we're going to go
Thank
on
you.
to Jonathan Shear, who is also opposed to the bill. Jonathan, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, Jonathan, welcome, and you have 2 minutes to discuss House Bill 5633 and your opposition to it, starting now.
Thank you, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. My name is John Scher. I'm executive director of the New England Convenience Store and Energy Marketers Association. Nexima represents the interests of nearly 500 convenience stores in Rhode Island, which employ 7,200 people, and I'm testifying in opposition to the bill. Rhode Island has it right when it comes to tobacco regulatory policy. You've got it right. Statewide, uniform policies developed by the agencies with the greatest resources and applied evenly, without confusion, across 39 cities and towns. It's clean, it's easily understood by regulatory and enforcement professionals and industry participants. It's effectively enforced, and it's understood by local businesses and consistent and fair for adult tobacco users. In Rhode Island, the legislature, the Department of Health, Department of Business Regulations, along with support from federal agencies such as the National Institute of Health, the FDA, and the CDC, set tobacco policy. These agencies have the best resources available to them to inform these policies. Local health departments, already stretched thin, are not the appropriate venue for these sorts of evaluations. There's nothing so unique about one locality where it would need its own set of tobacco policies. I spent many months in Massachusetts watching this play out, and almost to a town, they did not do a proper evaluation of the pros and cons of these policies. In fact, Supreme Court Justice Barrett Robinson said essentially the same thing in his ruling, which struck down Barrington's illegal attempt to create its own set of rules when he said, quote, "It is our view that uniform regulation of tobacco throughout the state is desirable, if not necessary." And he added, "There is legitimate concern that inconsistent regulations respecting tobacco will lead to confusion and decrease compliance with various federal and state regulations. While towns have jurisdiction over some products, tobacco is different and should be treated as such. Cross-border sales, illegal products, and black markets already exist. A patchwork of 39 rules will only exacerbate those problems, not help feed them.
Okay.
Not help them. Sorry. And the last thing I'll say before you let me go is Connecticut has not passed any local bans, and tobacco companies and retailers did not bully these towns. They broke the law, and the law was made right. Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, Mr. Scher. Are there any questions for Mr. Scher? Seeing none, we appreciate your testimony.
I have a question, please.
Wait a minute, Mr. Scher, are you there? I think he's gone, Justin. Representative Price.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay, that's okay. Thank you.
Ronak Patel is next, and he is also opposed to the bill. Mr. Patel, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you are opposed to the bill. You have 2 minutes to talk about your opposition to House Bill 5633.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. If this bill gets passed, it will be a big impact for not only for the retailers, but also for the local residents, depending on the individual cities. And as Rhode Island have got almost like 1,500 retail stores in 39 cities, and we don't know that which cities will be having advantages and which cities will be not having advantages. So according to this, if this bill gets passed, a lot of local residents will be also affected because they will be not able to get the products within their own city. And I don't think so there is any reason to have why this whole thing, tobacco regulation, should be different than the neighboring city. It should be the same, uniform across the state. And also the local health department, they should be following the state's decision and regulation. And state has got wider reasons, and they do have good resources with the federal, so they know very well what is right, what is wrong, what can be done within the state uniformly, and it will be also good for the law and enforcement people. It will be like state uniform, so it will be same for all the cities. So it will be much easier. But if suppose this bill gets passed, it will be not only a really bad impact for the businesses in Rhode Island, but also for the residents who will be also affected. And also the cities also will be affected because they will be also losing the revenue, some of the cities. So in fact, it will be affected to the state as well. So I think so this bill should not get passed, and it should be only, if it should be state uniform only. And it will be much better because if this bill gets passed as well,
thank you.
Lot of businesses will be out of business.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Patel. I see that you have Shatil Patel at the same number, also opposed.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have two opposition from your household. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any questions for the Patels?
My main consideration is that...
No, I'm asking the committee if they have any questions for you, Mr. Patel.
Yes, excuse me.
Oh, okay, Representative Price has a question.
Just was curious what he had to say there for that last minute. If I could ask,
yeah.
My question would be what he was finishing saying, if that's okay, Chairwoman?
Mr. Patel, if you want to just wrap up in one statement for Representative Price, please?
Yes, just to close it, because I was interested in what you had to say. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Okay.
Continue.
Okay. What I'm trying to tell, it will be a really bad impact for the small business. They would be out of the business, and also not only the business, but at the same time, city will be also losing a lot of revenues because all the businesses, they pay taxes, they pay utilities, everything. So if suppose this bill gets passed, the neighboring city, if suppose it has been passed over there, it will be good for them, but at the same time, other city is losing the revenues. A lot of people will be out of business. And everyone is small business. Rhode Island is small, and we are really small business people.
Patel,
so like you.
Mr. Patel, this is Chairman Hull. I believe in your statement you stated that.
Okay.
I heard
Yes.
We heard that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much for clarifying that.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
All right, we appreciate your testimony, Mr. Patel. And next...
Thank you so much.
And next, we are going to move on. We have Ali Majid. Ali, are you there? Ali?
Yes,
Ali?
I'm here.
Okay. You are opposed to the bill. You have 2 minutes to discuss your opposition to House Bill 5633.
Thank you. Good evening, respected House members and listeners. My name is Ali Majid, and I'm the Sales Account Manager of Colmark International. On behalf of the hundreds of small businesses we supply with the legal tobacco products and many other goods and services, I write to voice my strong opposition of House Bill 5633, which gives local governments undue involvement in tobacco regulation. Cormac's humble beginning began in 1888 as Glasser Brothers, a single storefront in San Francisco. From there, Cormac has grown into one of the largest distributors and marketers of consumer goods in North America. Our divisions alone employ more than 500 employees, many of which are honest, hardworking, and tax-paying Rhode Island residents. Transferring authority to few hands will not help to gain any advantage, but to lose business to neighboring towns only. States like Rhode Island, where towns are very close to each other, consumer will only have to drive a couple of minutes extra to get their required product. C-store industry capture most part of the small business in New England. In our state, where 52.8% of workforce is linked with the small business, sources U.S. Small Business Administration, and out of those 52.8, most of the people are linked directly or indirectly with the C-store industry. Towns forcing their own laws will not hurt the business in the towns, but overall employment ratio as well, which is already down because of the COVID-19. States like Massachusetts have seen their tobacco sales decrease 23.9% since banning flavored tobacco. Meanwhile, New Hampshire and Rhode Island have seen a 29.7% and 18.2% increase respectively. We have seen how easy it is for the customers to travel across the state lines. Can you imagine how easily consumers would cross into another town to disregard their hometown's tobacco regulation? Last but not least, this law we are trying to pass is because we all have concern over health of our kids. I'm also father of two, and I take pride when my kids do something good, but on the same note, I should be responsible for them as well if they follow wrong path of society.
Absolutely.
After parents,
Absolutely.
it's responsibility of the institute where they go to learn that underage kids are not part of any illegal activities. We shouldn't take an easy path of banning some products to...
Thank you, Mr.
I'm just
Majid.
finishing. Is there any question? I'm willing to answer any
Yes, that's what I
question.
was going to ask. Are there any questions for Mr. Majid? Seeing none, we thank you for your testimony, sir, and we're going to move on to David Pelletier. David?
Yeah.
Are you there? Okay, David, you have 2 minutes to discuss your opposition to House Bill 5633, starting now.
Okay, sorry, I won't try to take too much time. My name is David Pelletier. I'm a territory manager for Cormac International in Waynesville, Massachusetts. My territory is Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New York. I am opposed to the 5633 bill due to my experience with what it has done detrimentally to the state of Massachusetts. As a result of what they've done in Massachusetts, they've got people that would be normally not buying menthol product going over the borders to New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. I don't think they've solved any problems by banning the menthol flavors in Massachusetts. All they've done is lost revenue and passed it on to the surrounding states. I think if we do this in Rhode Island, I think the same thing will happen.
I can't hear him. He's got to get away from his microphone or something. I'm unable to hear him.
I'm sorry, but I think it'll be detrimental to Rhode Island, just as it was in Massachusetts, where people just left the state to go over the border. I think it'll be even worse in Rhode Island, where people in certain towns will leave that town into other towns surrounding them. It will hurt the businesses in the towns that banned the menthol. I am also a Rhode Island resident. I've lived in Rhode Island for 54 years. In my responsibility with Cormac, I have people that have worked for me in Massachusetts and Rhode Island because of what they did in Massachusetts. We've had many layoffs. People are out of jobs. Their families are suffering as a result of what they did because the volume went down in those stores in Massachusetts. We did not require the amount of manpower, and we had to lay off people. I'm concerned about other individuals that work for me in Rhode Island. I worry about myself because I have a livelihood I have to uphold, and my family counts on me. I just am totally opposed to this 5633, and I hope that everybody else is also. Thank you.
We appreciate your call, Mr. Pelletier. Are there any questions for Mr. Pelletier? Seeing none, I thank you for your testimony, and next we move on to Mian Salem.
Yeah. Hello?
Mian, how are you? Are you there? Okay. Mian,
Yes.
Thank you for calling in. You have 2 minutes to discuss your opposition to House Bill 5633. Starting now.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, ma'am, how are you?
Very good. Go right ahead.
Okay, so I saw the bill, they are trying to do the more authority in the cities and towns. And if they pass the bill, they want to kill all the small businesses because Rhode Island is a very small state and each town and city very close to each other. If I have a store in Warwick, Cranston, Johnston, Providence, or all the different cities. And if they ban the one city have a rule different than other, so they want to kill all the small businesses. So I am against this bill. And I hope you guys understand the problem with us as a small business owner. We are already struggling because it's a COVID and we can't have any more stress.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Salem. Are there any questions for Mr. Salem?
No, thank you. But only the reason is think about our small businesses, please.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Bye.
Okay, are there any questions? No, hearing none, we're going
Second
to
Vice Chair, Speakman.
Yes, we have several people who have submitted written testimony, many of whom we've already heard from. Ronak Patel is against, Anastasia Coughlin and Alexandra Coughlin, President and Treasurer of Copeland Tobacco, are against. Cyphus Enterprises against. Tim Andrews from Americas for Tax Reform against. Joseph Roncause and Maggie Roncause are against. Tristan Roncause also against. Ranavar Guman is against. Rachel Northrop and Susan Stockard from Eleanor Northrop are against. The American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network is for the bill. American Heart Association, American Lung Association, and the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids are for the bill. Oasis International in Providence is for the bill. Open Door Health for the bill. Preventing Tobacco Addiction Foundation is for the bill. Progreso Latino is for the bill. Rhode Island Academy of Family Physicians for the bill. Rhode Island Academy of Pediatrics, Rhode Island Medical Society are for the bill. Mac Babar from Mac Food Store and Vape is against the bill. Daniel Fitzgerald is for the bill. Rachel Newman Green from the Providence Mayor's Office is for the bill. Taxpayers Protection Alliance is against. RAI Service Company against. Dr. Nicole Alexander Scott from the Rhode Island Department of Health is for the bill. And Khalid Ishmael is for the bill. Thank you.
And that will conclude 5633. Now let's move on to Representative Azanero's bill, 5479. Representative Azanero, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chairman and members of the committee. House Bill 5479 is relating to health and safety. It's a new Home Buyers Fire Protection Act. It's been before us before. There's been some modifications to it. It may not be perfect as it stands right now, but it's pretty close, I think. And what this bill will do, it would mandate that the builder of a new one or two family residential dwelling provide the home buyer with written information regarding the installation of an automatic fire sprinkler system subject to civil penalties for violations enforced by the Attorney General or State Fire Marshal. It's only giving the person buying a house to build the option of putting in a sprinkler system during the time of construction, which would be a lot cheaper than putting it in after a house is built, insulation's in, walls are in, wiring's in. So that's basically what this bill is asking us to do, to have the builder say, we can put the sprinkler system in for X dollars now, and that's it. So I'll be happy to try to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Any questions for Representative Azanero?
Yeah, I just want to thank the sponsor for putting this bill in. It seems very straightforward.
I'm sorry.
No worries, Chairman. But no, again, just want to thank the sponsor for putting this bill in. It seems very common sense, straightforward, and I think it, as you mentioned, is going to have an economic benefit to the working people, middle-class families who may otherwise want a sprinkler and can do it at the time of construction as opposed to thereafter. So just thank you again.
Thank you. I agree. I don't think it's rocket science to do it. I have a letter here from, I don't know if you have it, but it's from the Department of Business Regulations, where they say there's some things that should be questioned about it. But again, I don't think it's rocket science for a builder to be able to say, this is what it is for a ranch, this is what it would be for a raised ranch, this is what it would be for a Cape Cod, and so on. There should be probably stuff already in the firemen's, the state fire marshal's paperwork for this type of thing. So, anyway, I can leave this with you if you did not receive it.
We'll take it, Chairman. Any other questions? Second Vice Chair Speakman?
There's no one calling in on the phone for this, but we have two organizations who have submitted written testimony. Timothy McLaughlin, the State Fire Marshal, is against the bill, and John Mark Antonio from the Rhode Island Builders Association against the bill.
That will conclude 5479. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Representative Place. Representative Place, please come forward. We will now move on to House Bill 6139, Act relating to the Oaklawn Mapleville Number 4 Fire District. Representative Place, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 6139 is a ratification of the Oakland Mapleville Fire District's amendments to the charter they made last year. Actually, I think it was actually made in 2019, but due to COVID, we weren't able to get that ratification passed last session. The major changes to the charter they made, they adjusted their annual meeting from the second to the third Wednesday of the year, adjusted a notification aspect of their charter, and then also staggered the terms of their members so that everybody would be coming up for a vote at the same time. Other than that, the remainder of the changes within the charter itself were more in line with bringing it from a 1934 document up to a 2020 document. One note I will have to make, last year during the testimony on this bill, the ACLU pointed out that on page 1, line 4, that in section 2, the taxable inhabitants of said fire district, that there's Rhode Island Supreme Court precedence that states that that language needed to be removed. We've addressed it with the legal counsel, and it's my understanding, again, it is before the committee, but I would ask that that be sub-A'd in order to remove that language and make sure that the ACLU correction, not the ACLU, but just make sure it brings you into compliance with Rhode Island Constitution.
Any questions? Mr. Place. Second Vice Chair.
There's no written testimony. And no call-ins on
Yep, and I believe there is a resolution from the fire district, committee, as well as meeting minutes that go in line with approving the change that the ACLU recommended.
Thank you. Any other questions? That will conclude 5139. Representative Henrys, please come forward.
This is Bill 6093 by Representative Henrys. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman and committee members. I bring to you a housing bill, something that's incredibly important nowadays, especially because we talk constantly about needing affordable housing, especially during the COVID crisis. Our own speaker actually mentioned in a press conference the importance of housing. It's been over 100 years since the invention of single-family zoning laws, a staple of redlining and housing discrimination for the past century. Its original intention was to keep African Americans out of white neighborhoods, and while that deliberate intention may be gone, the results have hardly changed. My bill, H6093, would require all municipalities with populations of 20,000 people or more to adopt zoning regulations for middle housing, such as duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, and cottage clusters. The extreme overabundance of single-family zoning has failed our state in a multitude of ways. For starters, single-family homes have proven to be a waste of valuable urban space, making them the most expensive and least eco-friendly types of homes. They decrease population density, which limits how many people can live within walking distance of their schools, parks, businesses, and other important infrastructure. This increases the cost for individuals who have to commute longer distances, for small businesses who serve less residents in their neighborhoods, and for municipal governments who must provide more schools, more bus stops, and rely on less efficient utility services to account for the urban sprawl that single-family zoning creates. Another massive benefit of this law would be the impact it has on the environment. For both our urban and our rural communities, 88% of Rhode Islanders drive to work every day, myself included. Too many low and middle income Rhode Islanders are forced to commute long distances because they are priced out of the very neighborhoods they work in. This puts a strain on families that are forced to send their kids to schools in different neighborhoods than their work, creating logistical hassles for people who are already struggling and increasing overall reliance on cars. Single-family zoning is also one of the greatest culprits for the increase in urban sprawl, which has encroached upon rural communities for decades. Forests have been torn down and farms converted into suburbia to create space for this inefficient style of housing. By condensing our urban areas into more efficient, eco-friendly, and equitable neighborhoods, we will preserve the lifestyle of rural communities for generations to come. Our answer for far too long has been to build more single-family homes, which has only furthered racial housing discrimination and increased costs for everyone. This legislation would be a major step towards racial equity in housing, would diversify neighborhoods, would help reduce our carbon footprint, and lower costs and increase efficiency for individuals and business. This is a solution that's not only fiscally responsible, but it also makes sense for the crisis we face right now. According to the National Low Income Housing Coalition, we are in need of 22,000 more affordable homes. This is just one of many solutions that we can create. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Hendricks. Are there any questions for Representative Hendricks? Representative Williams, Chairwoman Williams, sorry.
Thank you. Representative Hendricks, I want to commend you for this piece of legislation that it is very well thought out, but I'm not too, I don't have a question, but I have a statement so that you're aware. Redlining hasn't stopped. It just changed its look. And that's why we need to be very cognizant on the fact that we are going into housing because of the fact, going into the need of housing in our state. The majority of that need is in the urban community, as you are well aware, and they too are aware. But we as a community are not paying close attention for the simple fact that we're too busy working 2 and 3 and 4 jobs in order to pay rent to their apartment that is not suitable for our household members. But we're working so hard that we can't focus on what is being continued to being done to us. So this legislation, hopefully they will all, and they know who they are, will definitely put into consideration that it's due time. This redlining nonsense needs to stop. It's going to stop. Their names are going to be all written on it of continuing it in the state of Rhode Island. I was going to say of the plantation state, but at any rate, thank you once again. This is a great piece of legislation.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Representative Morgan.
Yeah, I don't have a question either, but I actually really strongly oppose this legislation. Right now, every community develops a comprehensive plan. And that comprehensive plan allows them to look at their land, the land that's available, and decide what goes in each part of the land. Single-family homes, I get it, they use more space. They're also usually more expensive. And that goes into making up the tax base of a municipality. So you have less expensive homes, you have, townhouses, duplexes. They each carry a value to them. And the comprehensive plan is about making sure that the tax base, which is what devised by the comprehensive plan, is actually provides enough income to pay for all the services in the town or the city. So I think this is one place where the comprehensive plan really makes a lot of sense, and every town develops it. I get it in the really urban areas, even in West Warwick, because I think we have 29,000. But you know, we actually do think about density and smaller lots even for housing developments. But it really is about devising what the town looks like and making sure that your tax base can support the services. So I think you should leave this idea in the comprehensive plan and then work in the cities and towns to make sure that they address affordable housing, which I think is probably what we're going to do with this study commission that's coming out. Right? Representative Speakman has put that in, is to think about where we can put more affordable housing into every community, but without degrading its tax base. Remember, affordable housing is actually subsidized by all the other property owners in a city and town. They get a preferred tax rate. So you want to make sure that towns are in charge of that, or you won't have the services then.
No, great commentary, Rep. Morgan. I believe in the actual bill, we talk about being able to allow the towns and cities to be able to have that time to be able to do the appropriate planning for the space, and then having that then be looked at by the building code committees and whatnot, so.
And not to be argumentative, you're actually prohibiting single-family residential zoning. And like I said, the single-family homes, yes, they take more space, but they also usually contribute a lot more in taxes, right? They pay more taxes because of that. So it's just, we're going to look at it, I'm sure.
We are going to look at it.
We are going to look at it, so
But yeah.
thank you anyway.
Thank you for your commentary.
Thank you, Representative Morales, and then Chairwoman Williams.
Yeah, Representative Henry, I just want to thank you so much for introducing this piece of legislation. I truly believe this is one of the most sustainable ways. If we as a state are serious about investing in affordable housing, this is one of the strategies that we have to incorporate into the wider scheme of ensuring that everyone has a livable space to live in, regardless of whether their municipality or the respective community is an urban one or a rural one or a suburban one. So again, there are alternatives that exist, which you highlighted, if the individuals are concerned about the nature of their community changing because they're no longer single-family zone housing. That being cottage clusters, townhouses. These are solutions that exist. And again, I just want to thank you for presenting this because this is very innovative. It's outside the box, thinking away from the traditional norms on how we have usually done things to approach affordable housing. And above all, one of the more fiscally responsible moves that we can make as a state as well beyond just having to look at the state and city budgets to depend on affordable housing. Because naturally, this will now encourage developers to invest towards more dense housing than they would have prior to this. So thank you again.
Thank you, Rep. Morales.
Thank you, Representative. Chairwoman Williams.
Thank you. Comprehensive plans for our cities and towns for decades on top of decades have been the detriment and part of the redlining that has been going on. Multifamily housing pays a lot more taxes than a single house dwelling. And it's also that comprehensive plan is to keep a certain population out of their cities and towns. It's a known fact. So sitting down and leaving it to the cities and towns to come up with their own comprehensive plan, I'm all for it, providing that they will incorporate this piece of legislation or people that is not just from their immediate circle of their town to show that times have changed, because that old school mentality is no more. It's okay, I guess, that people want to remain and retain what they know, but you also have to gravitate and embrace the change. We have a housing crisis, and that comprehensive model, if it's continued to be utilized, will continue to discriminate. And we are trying to remove ourselves from discrimination of all kinds. And this new innovation, if you're in it to really represent all of us taxpayers, all of us human beings, then we will need to embrace what is before us and move it forward. And not to take anything about a plan, it's good to have plans, but it needs to be more inclusive and not discriminatory. And that's where it stands right now. Redlining is a reality, it exists, and it needs to be stopped. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Representative Lima.
I would just like to say, I sat on a planning board for 8 years. I've gone through comprehensive plans. I was the director of planning for the city of Woonsocket. It's a great idea what you're saying. I really like the concept, but I also caution that what happens is, we're going to end up, like, for instance, Woonsocket, we have 45,000 residents, plenty of tenements, plenty of housing, but we're going to take those clusters of single families and we're going to compact them so tight with people building second stories to their houses to make another unit, a duplex, whatever the case may be. We're going to lose any bit of community, little neighborhoods. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure which communities are targeting. I know Woonsocket has never redlined anything. We have been wide open with housing for a long time, but I'm really concerned about Woonsocket having this legislation go through and then losing all of our single-family neighborhoods. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like too bold. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be the ability to use this, but not forced to use this. You know what I mean? Thank you.
Other members of the committee, before we go to Representative Morgan again? I see you. I just want to make sure no one on the remote wants to participate. Okay, Representative Morgan.
Yes, Chairwoman Williams, I understand. I mean, I don't know Providence, and I don't know the challenges in Providence, so I can't speak to them. I can speak to my areas, and I know that we actually are getting a lot of condos, like smaller condos. Though that's one of the dense things that dense alternatives that you have in your bill. I don't think in my town, in West Warwick, that there is a preference anymore for single-family homes, right? It is really about condominiums, but that's in our comprehensive plan, right? Other areas may prefer single-family homes for whatever reason they have. I don't think that the point of it is to be discriminatory. It's just about how they want to use their land. Like I said, to support and grow a tax base. I know during the recession, the condominiums actually lost value at a much higher rate than single-family homes. And they were they just took forever to come back, to grow back in their value. It actually depressed the tax revenue that we were able to get from our housing stock. So, I mean, it's why I think the comprehensive plan is the best place to let a town figure this out. I honestly don't think, at least not in my towns, they're using it to discriminate against anybody, because we are getting a lot of single-family homes. But I can't, again, I know you have seen it in Providence. I don't like it either, but I don't think that this bill actually, it doesn't make sense to impose it upon the entire state.
Representative Williams, then Representative Alzate.
You said perfectly clear the comprehensive plan. They came up with more condos. Your comprehensive plan was not inclusive of the need, the wider need. You wanted to increase your tax base. So what was safe was to just think about you all, period. When I say you all, the town and who would be welcome in that town is what is clearly coming out. And that's what I'm saying about redlining. Why would the plan not have been, let us be more diverse with regards to the construction, not just for condos. It could have been more than just condos, could have been additional single and multi-families, but being safe with what you are used to so that it can remain safe. You ventured on to condominiums. Folks that are in need, it's not just because I live in Providence, but all of the urban core. It's like, not in my backyard, because, we don't want your people up in there. But the need is just, it's not just in Providence. It's not, it's in all the urban area, and also probably in your city as well. But having that closed mind of, this is the way it's always been, this works for us, does not mean, or should not be, that we should not expound and give others opportunity because we have the land. Being safe in what you have doesn't mean that you're not being, you're being welcoming. You're not.
Yeah, I guess, and I don't want to make this a debate or a conversation between Anastasia and I, but let me just clarify.
Please don't.
In West Warwick, we have apartments, we have Section 8 housing, we have condominiums, we have small lot housing, single-family housing, we have it all right? It's in our comprehensive plan. We have apartment buildings, lots of them. We have multifamily, so we have the full mixture, and it's in our comprehensive plan, right? But the town got to devise it, and what you're trying to do is impose that they can't have single family anymore, and I just think that's wrong. So we can talk later. We won't make everybody else listen.
Representative Alzate.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. So, affordable housing, it's a passion. I'm on a mission. I love this bill. Obviously, I'm on it. I think it's great. There's a lot of components to affordable housing, and it's not just one thing or the other. Speaking truth to everything that has been said here, I think that I'm on a mission to change the idea of what we mean about affordable housing. Affordable housing doesn't just mean that it's cheap or people who are not able to buy land or single-family homes. It's not affordable. Affordable housing is really about a community, and it's really about people like myself, like Chairwoman Williams, like Representative Henrys, to be able to buy homes that don't break the bank because we are working families. And so when we talk about affordable housing, it's not about Section 8, it's not about low-income people, and it's not about black and brown only. So affordable housing is really a bigger plan to part of the city. And I can promise you, Representative Morgan, in your community, redlining has happened and it continues to happen, even if it's not the same way that we might think of it. But affordable housing is a much bigger conversation than just being able to buy one-family home. That's all.
Before we go to the phones, I have a couple of comments and a question.
Sure.
First, I want to commend you for bringing this. This is an innovative solution to building sustainable, walkable, affordable communities within communities, and it is it's the kind of flexibility we need if we're going to solve this problem. So thank you for the creative solution. I do have a question. I don't know if you have the bill in front of you. It's on page 2, and it's at line 28, and it says, this section does not prohibit local governing bodies from permitting single-family dwellings in areas zoned to allow for single-family dwellings. So Representative Morgan has said a couple of times, this makes it impossible to build single-family homes. Is that seems in conflict with what I'm reading in the law.
Could you just repeat it? I'm sorry, I'm getting like...
Excuse me one second. Mr. Price, could you please shut off your microphone? Proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Price. Page 2, line 28. This said, this section does not prohibit local governing bodies from permitting single-family dwellings in areas zoned to allow for single-family dwellings.
You read that correctly, and that was going to be my next comment, is that it's actually not a full prohibition of single-family zoning, but instead an expansion on the ability to have middle housing within those previously established zones, so we can actually have this space and consider it, and then towns and municipalities can consider it a part of their comprehensive plan. So that's the main thing, and I wanted to also make commentary. On the actual current status, to Rep. Lima's point, is that 23 out of the 39 municipalities, multifamily zoning is not included. Woonsocket is not included in that. They do have multifamily zoning, and only 7 of those 23 would be affected by this current legislation I'm presenting.
Thank you for that clarification. Representative Lima.
I just have one question. So two things that come to mind is density and space. So a lot, for instance, a house lot in Woonsocket, let's say it's 5,000 square feet. That's a buildable single-family lot in the old days, right? So a builder could buy that house that's on a 5,000 square foot lot, and the city would not be able to prevent him from putting another unit on a lot that's already not really big enough for a single family. So that, I mean, that leads concern for, I'm sure, the city of Woonsocket, and I know I, as the ex-planning director, would definitely have concerns about that, not being able to say no. So that's my only real concern. It should be, like I said, it's a great plan, I agree. Like, I really like the idea of, hey, you know what? There are some much bigger single-family lots that could be, you know, used in this kind of method, but there are many, many in Woonsocket that would be taken, honestly, would be taken advantage of by builders who would say, I can buy that small cottage right there on a 5,000 square foot lot, and this law says you have to let me do this. You know what I mean? And then what would the city have for recourse?
I mean, I think that it comes down to actually bringing it back to the city council too, because they have some say in this, right? So it's not just like a one-sided, it's not like a full-blown mandate, it is the ability to be able to. So just like I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, because you are the expert here, I'm not gonna say that I am, but if they were going to do something like that, they would have to go through approval through like city council, and so something like that is taken into consideration.
Yeah, they don't go through city council. What happens is once this zoning law, this would become a zoning law, would go into effect, it's a designated map. So if you were to look at the zoning map of Woonsocket, you would say, oh, this is, used to be single family, is now this new zoning. It would allow people to, honestly, it would cause lawsuits because the city would try to stop it. I can tell you the city is trying to prevent density, not because we don't want people in, but because our services can't handle it. Our schools are taxed, our fire departments, all of our services we have are being taxed on a regular basis. I was a developer. I built a condo complex with 56 units in it, and I got a lot of flack because I was putting 56 units in a 4-acre area. But it was like one of those things where you just, like I said, for the city of Woonsocket, and I don't know about the rest of the cities and towns, but I can tell you very, you know, intimately about the city of Woonsocket and its planning and why we are in doing the things we do. And this would just open up situations where builders, I know for a fact, I'm a builder. If this goes into place, I'll go buy a cottage for a couple $100,000, put another unit in it and sell it for $300,000. That's a cool deal. But that's the kind of thing that will take place. So, and again, some situations are great. The smaller lots, not a good plan. But so the city needs some sort of mechanism to be able to say, this qualifies, this does not.
Thank you for your feedback.
Thank you.
Representative Morales.
Hang on, please.
Sorry.
Hang on, Mr. Morales and everyone here. We have people on the phone that we need to get to, and we'll come back to you.
Okay. You want to go to the phones first then? Okay.
2 minutes.
Nina? Yes. Is this Nina Landau? You're with the House Committee on Municipal Government and Housing to testify on Bill 6093? Nina, are you there? She was there. No? Yes, Nina, are you there? Please proceed. No. Hold on, we're working on the phones. Yes?
Please bear with us. Okay, let's, Representative Morales, let's go to Representative Morales.
It was just going to be very brief, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to ask Representative Lima to turn to page 15, just because I think Section B1 and then Section 1 and 2 might address some of the concerns he might have had. And I think it's also just important to state for the record that this isn't necessarily a retroactive piece of legislation that would require that any current single-family zoning that does exist would then have to transfer itself over to become more dense. If it's a single-family home that already exists and it's going to remain a single-family zone. This is not designed to be retroactive.
Thank you, Representative. We're ready to go to the phones now. Lindsay Langenberg, are you there? Hello, Lindsay, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, you're before the House Committee on Municipal Government and Housing to testify in support of House Bill 6093. You have 2 minutes. Please proceed.
Okay. My name is Lindsay Langenberg. I'm a resident of Pawtucket. I'm an urban planner and homeowner in Rhode Island, testifying in favor of requiring zoning for middle housing in single-family residential zones within the urban growth boundary. I'd like to highlight several goals and policies within elements of our state guide plan and make a case for this bill as an implementation activity for the plan. Our housing plan has 4 highest priority goals, and 2 of them are increasing density through zoning changes. This act would remove a massive barrier to increasing density and allow for development of diverse, affordable housing options in the near term. The Economic Development Plan states that a range of housing choices, including multifamily, should be allowed to support density at an appropriate scale, and that a performance measure for economic development is an increase in non-single-family housing units. The Land Use Plan states that multifamily use is often not allowed by right, and that a contributing factor to the extraordinary pressure and imbalance in housing is local zoning that limits the areas provided for other than single-family residences. So low density and large lot zoning is identified by multiple elements of our state guide plan as a barrier to affordable housing, and there are multiple strategies proposed to solve this. So what is the purpose of doing further studies, further planning, further analysis, when we've already studied, planned, analyzed, and determined the problem to be a lack of affordable housing that can be solved in part by increasing density within the urban growth boundary? In the areas that you represent, would you like to approach a family who is unhoused and tell them that maybe in another 15 years we could provide a grant and technical assistance? Yes.
Excuse me for 1 second. I don't want to cut you off,
Sure.
but I need to do some housekeeping. Representative Price, could you stay muted so that we can hear the testimony? Please proceed. Please excuse me.
Thank you.
Yes. Just wondering how I
Perhaps
get
in another
recognized.
15 years, we could provide a grant and technical assistance to their municipality to change the zoning laws to allow a small, affordable duplex near their place of employment. Except first, we'd have to identify and pay the consultants, write and revise and approve another plan, then let the plan sit on a shelf beside the old plan for a decade. The annual report cards for all of these elements of the state guide plan that were promised to track progress on these plans has never materialized. There's been zero accountability for these policy changes, so make a move. In addition, just the comprehensive plan for all municipalities is not about the tax base. It's about the long-term physical development of the municipality. The goals and policies are relative to the distribution of future land uses, forms the basis for land use decisions, for overall physical, economic, and social development. Just in addition to increasing the housing stock, improving affordability, acting as a pressure valve for the housing crisis, I'd encourage you to consider the extensive work, research, public outreach, and immense public funding that went into crafting these plans.
Thank you.
These were thoroughly vetted and approved by the State Planning Council, who I'm sure would love to see these elements of the state guide plan finally come to fruition.
Thank you very much. You've
After
reached
all-
your time limit. You've reached your time limit.
Okay.
Do any members of the committee have a question for Lindsay? Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. Okay. Next we have Christian Roseland. Christian, are you there?
Yes, thank you so much, Chair and committee members. My name is Christian Roseland. I'm a renter in Providence, and I'm not here on behalf of any organization, only representing myself. I appreciate the opportunity to testify today in favor of H6093. As we all know, Rhode Island is experiencing a crisis with a lack of affordable housing. The average home price has gone up by about $100,000 in the last 5 years. And that makes the dream of buying a home a vanishing proposition for many low to middle income people in this state. Along with this, rents have steadily risen. And it's taking more and more out of the paychecks of state residents. As more people move down from Boston, which is increasingly becoming unaffordable, this is further putting pressure on the whole situation, especially in Providence and nearby towns. The average rent is nearly $2,000 per month in our largest city, Providence. And across the state, the vacancy rate has fallen to only 2.6% for rentals. This naturally means that more people are ending up without homes. In 2019, we had more than 1,000 residents of our state who did not have a house to go to on any given night, and that figure is courtesy of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. But during the pandemic, the numbers of homeless individuals in the state are expected to have doubled. So clearly, we have an issue with housing supply. And one of the significant barriers to new homes in Rhode Island is that single-family zoning takes up a large portion of our urban areas. And I want to note that this bill does not apply to small towns. It does not apply to rural areas. This is about the urban service areas. These are often places that are close to the services where housing demand is the highest and closest to jobs. And so this pushes people, especially poor people, farther away from jobs and essential services. It increases the strain on our highway, and it increases the strain on our transportation infrastructure. And let's be clear that single-family zoning is a way in which municipalities impinge on the rights of property owners to be able to build and developers to build to meet the needs of communities.
Thank you, Christian. You've reached your 2 minutes.
So I'm not done. Can I finish?
We give everyone 2 minutes. Can you, one more sentence, how about that? In conclusion.
Well, H693 would open up single-family zoning to include the missing middle. It wouldn't prohibit anybody from building a single-family home in any of the places they can now, and it wouldn't allow a 5-story apartment building. The idea that duplexes and townhouses would destroy a neighborhood is hard to take seriously. This would instead open up the market for housing.
Thank you very much. Any members of the committee have a question for Christian?
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you have something else to say, you can certainly submit written testimony to the committee. Appreciate it. Next on the line, we have Nina Wolf-Landau. Hello, Nina. You're before the House Committee on Municipal Government and Housing to speak in support of Bill 6093. Please proceed. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Nina Wolf-Landau. I'm a Providence resident. I really appreciate your time tonight. I will keep it brief. I'm here testifying on behalf of myself in support of House Bill 6093. I really urge everyone on the committee to listen to all the other very knowledgeable folks who testified tonight about really all the reasons why this legislation would advance a more sustainable, just, and equitable Rhode Island and a livable Rhode Island. As someone who has lived in apartments my entire time living in Rhode Island, I can speak to the benefits of being in spaces that are more affordable, that are being in spaces that are more sustainable, and the importance of maximizing the ability for residents of the state to have housing. And we can't get there if we only have single-family residential zoning. And if we continue to spread single-family residential zoning, we're eating away at the vital land we need for agriculture, for recreation, and it really undermines the state we all love and call home. So I urge all the legislators to support this legislation, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do any members of the committee have questions for Nina?
First Vice Chair.
Thank you. We also, excuse me one second, we have one person that we couldn't reach by phone. That's Jane Weidman from the Rhode Island chapter of the American Planners Association, and she's opposed. Sorry. First Vice Chair.
Okay, and so for written testimony for House Bill 6093, we have Brenda Clement from Housing Works, and she is Housing Works Rhode Island, and she is con the bill. David Salvatore from Rhode Island Realtors is pro. Jeff Davis from the American Planning Association, the Rhode Island chapter, is con the bill. And Connor Smith, student from Roger Williams University, is pro the bill. And with that, that concludes the hearing on House Bill 6093. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the back of our agenda, and we have some...
I'll take it.
Oh, sure.
Okay, we got some housekeeping. So we will now go to Representative Donovan Bill 6127. First Vice Chair.
I'm going to make a motion that we,
First Vice Chair, speak about the bill.
okay, sorry, give me the little. This bill, we heard from Representative Donovan, it was an act validating and ratifying the amendments to the homeroom charter of the town of Bristol. We heard this on March 11th, and I make a motion that we accept this bill to move on to the floor.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. We'll take a roll call vote on House Bill 6127. Go ahead. Go on. Thank you.
There was a motion made by First Vice Chair Fogarty and seconded by Second Vice Chair Speakman to move forward Representative Donovan's Bill 6127. Chairman Hall, is that your vote?
Correct.
First Vice Chair Fogarty, is that your vote?
Yes.
Second Vice Chair Speakman, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Barrows, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Cardillo, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Kazarian, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Lima, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Morales, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Morgan, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Price, is that your vote? Representative Williams, is that your vote?
Yes.
That completes the roll call. Your motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we will now move to House Bill 6128 by Representative Maury, an act relating to alcohol beverage and retail licensing authorized by East Providence City Council to issue a Class B license for a retail establishment located at 332 Bullock Point Avenue.
I make a motion that we approve and move to the floor House Bill.
Hang on one second.
Oh, a second.
I second.
Right, there we go.
It's been moved and seconded.
Bill has been moved and seconded. Roll call vote.
I'm sorry, was that House Bill 6128?
Correct.
There was a motion made by First Vice Chair Fogarty and seconded by Representative Kazarian to move House Bill 6128 for passage. Chairman Hull, is that your vote?
That is correct.
First Vice Chair Fogarty, is that your vote?
Yes.
Second Vice Chair Speakman, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Barrows, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Cardillo, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Kazarian, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Lima, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Morales, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Morgan, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Price, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams, is that your vote?
Yes.
That completes the roll call. Your motion carries.
Okay, one last one of what we have right here ready for us. We will now move to Senate Bill 240.
I move passage of Senate Bill 240.
Second?
So moved.
Oh.
This is the House Rule Charter for the town of Barrington.
An act validating and ratifying the amendment to the Home Rules Charter of the town of Barrington. I move.
Yeah, I moved. It's been moved and seconded to the roll call vote.
Roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
There was a motion made by First Vice Chair Fogarty and seconded by Representative Kazarian to move Senate Bill 240 for passage. Chairman Hall, is that your vote?
Correct.
First Vice Chair Fogarty, is that your vote?
Yes.
Second Vice Chair Speakman, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Barrows, is that your vote? Yes. Representative Cardillo, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Kazarian, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Lima, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Morales, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Morgan, is that your vote?
Correct.
Representative Price, is that your vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams, is that your vote?
Yes.
That completes the roll call vote. Your motion carries.
Madam First Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. We'll now move to House Bill, oops, I just went right by it.
6126.
6126 by Representative Bennett. And Representative Bennett is taking the podium, and his bill is...
Act relating to dairy farms to the exemption of form of taxation granted to farmland, forestry, and open space. Representative Bennett, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman, Madam Chair, Vice Chairman. We have 11 licensed dairy farms in Rhode Island, 9 fluid milk, 1 cheese and yogurt, and 1 that's goat cheese. The largest farm being Wright's Dairy Farm, and one of the smaller ones is the Simmons Farm, which is the goat cheese farm. The land that they farm was not included in the farmland for cropland, and we're trying to get them brought in because they're hurting. And the reason we went with the licensed dairy farms is so I don't go out and buy a cow and say I'm a dairy farm. So the Rhode Island Farm Bureau is the one that is working on this bill diligently. And I feel it would really help the dairy farmers to get the same exemption that other lands do. We'll be working on a sub-A with the chairman's permission to bring in some of the outbuildings, but we haven't finished that section of it. I think this is a good bill, and I'll take any questions if you have them.
Are there any questions? Representative, oh, excuse me, Leader Filippi is here, and go right ahead.
Thank you very much. Curious, how many head of cattle does it take to be considered a dairy farm? Can you get one? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know. They're licensed. Like Wright's Farm is the largest, but they do retail.
Yeah.
You know, they all have different specialties. But that's the reason why we went with licensed farms. So, you know, if I have a 3-acre piece of land and I buy a cow, I can say I'm a licensed dairy farm. I'm not a licensed dairy farm, I'm a dairy farm. But as far as cows, I don't know. I think I don't know how many Wrights has. I think around a couple hundred, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Representative Morales has a question.
Representative Bennett, do we have an estimate on the fiscal impact this would have on our state and/or city or towns?
I have figures. A big farm like Wright's Farm, they pay $20,000 in taxes, but they bring much more of that back into the town with their dairy business, their ice cream business, their chicken restaurant. We're a small farm like the Simmons Farm, pays $800, and the farms in between about $2,000 per year.
Yeah, thank you for that. And on top of that, is there any resolution from any municipality in support of this?
No, I haven't got one.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions for Representative Bennett? I just want to say, I know that in our town, we have some dairy farms, and we had some dairy farms that were under the Farm Forest and Open Space Act, so I was kind of surprised to see this myself too. We just considered it, whatever farm it was, they're selling a certain number of dollars that it would fall under that.
Well,
And they applied for the Farm Forest and Open Space Act.
Yeah.
They have to apply for
This is
it.
being worked on. We were trying to get it so we'd protect, this is from the Farm Bureau. So we'd be protecting people from not pretending, but, you know, saying I'm a dairy farm, and you're really not.
And you're really not.
There's a lot of farms that aren't licensed, so all they have to do is get on and get a license, and then they can fall into this category. But Rhode Island's losing dairy farms really bad. You know, they're selling out to solar. There's a lot of, you know, they're selling out to development. Yeah, and it's,
you know, the old way of Rhode Island is slowly being bought away. If we don't take care of the ones that are here now, we're probably going to lose them all.
Okay. Okay, Representative Lima?
Chairman Craven, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I love the fact that we definitely want to keep the dairy farms in Rhode Island. My one question I do have is, it says here all outbuildings. Would that include things like retail stores such as?
No.
So
No,
what?
that's a separate business. When you got a retail business, that's entirely different. Like Wright's Restaurant wouldn't be able to write that off and say, no, I'm tax exempt. We made that mistake with the colleges and the hospitals and the churches, where we said you're tax exempt, and then you got colleges like Johnson and Wales owns more restaurants in Rhode Island than most, you know, and they're tax exempt.
Right, right. So that would be separate, even though it's part of the property of the farm, it's not, it would still be taxed.
Yeah, this is more focused on the land itself. That's why forest land, other crop farms, stuff like that, they're tax exempt. Where the cow farmers weren't brought into that at that time. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring them into that same loop so they can keep their land and be productive.
Right. Great, thank you.
Okay. Representative Cardillo?
The only question I have is, if they have cows, their land, isn't it zoned farmland already?
That's what I would have thought. Yeah, no, when they did this, they had croplands. Well, that's what this bill does, is trying to fix it.
Yeah, but they can apply for farmland. You gotta have a minimum 5 acres to apply.
But it's croplands. The farms that are exempt are croplands. They grow corn, they grow,
I understand.
stuff like that.
Right.
Where the cow farm is, like if you're a beef farmer and you sell beef,
Okay,
you know,
stand corrected, you're right.
it's not into the, you don't grow crops. I imagine that, you know, if a big farm, you have cows and crops, you might be exempt. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I knew crop farms were, so I just took it for granted that dairy was also.
Yeah, I was pretty.
Excellent, thank you.
I'm wondering about that myself.
Are there any further questions for Chairman Bennett? Nope, seeing none. We have no call-in testimony, and we have one witness written testimony from Henry B. Wright from the Rhode Island Farm Bureau, and he is pro the bill. With that, I will close the hearing on House
Thank
Bill
you.
6126. Thank you, Chairman Bennett.
Representative Barrows, please come forward. We will now move to Bill 6125, Second Vice Chair.
Thank you. Representative Barrows, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This resolution basically came to me when I was talking to some folks with the massive sort of COVID-19 relief funds that's been talked about. And when I found out that we were getting additional funding, and this time the state is getting additional $1.7 billion, of which nearly 600 million of that would go directly to cities and town. And so so given the magnitude of that, and the immense need for assistance that exists throughout the country in all areas of our society, it is important more than ever that all funds received by Rhode Island cities and towns be administered and distributed with transparency and in a manner that guarantees the honesty and integrity of the entire process. One of the ways this objective can be accomplished would be by directing each Rhode Island cities and town to create a 5-member commission appointed by each city or town chief executive officer that would be responsible for the oversight to ensure accountability, transparency, and making sure that the entire process is completely open to the public and members of the media. Each local commission would consist of the mayor's office, one in the mayor's office, 2 folks from the city council, and 2 folks from the general public. So what this bill basically does is, that this House of Representatives of the state of Rhode Island hereby respectfully request that the chief executive officers of each Rhode Island cities and town appoint a 5-member independent commission charged with the duty and responsibility of providing oversight and accountability to the process of how these federal funds are expended. It's not a heavy lift, and I'm assuming that most cities and towns would probably normally do it on their own, but I thought in the conversation that I've had with folks over these last few months, transparency, honesty, and all that stuff seemed to be at the forefront of everybody's mind, so that's why I brought this bill.
Thank you, Representative. Are there any questions for Representative Barros? Representative Lima?
I think it's a great bill. I definitely think we need oversight in this type of spending and sending money out to help the folks most needed. My one quick question is the Oversight Committee, would they have any jurisdiction, like say things aren't followed, that they agree? Like say, this isn't what we want to do, or this shouldn't be done this way. Is there any way that they have any type of enforcement? Or is it just an oversight where, who do they report that to? And then what's the repercussions if it's not followed by design?
So my intent, the intent of the bill was originally to basically, or the resolution was to basically put each city and town chief executive officer on notice that we're looking, where people are looking, people are watching. And like I said, I don't distrust any of my chief executive officers in any cities or town because I know they're all honest and they're all there for the right reason. Now, because of the immensity of the need that currently exists, let's take for instance Pawtucket in my district. So I want to make sure that all the fund that I distributed somewhat evenly and equitably in every sense of, in every part of the community. Now, the oversight is strictly oversight. I mean, obviously the media would have access to however these funds were distributed, and there probably there should be some type of mechanism by which, or rubric that that the city or town would come up with, that would, in terms of how they would distribute these funds, almost like the rubric that was sort of brought about in terms of how each city and town is going to get the amount that they are actually going to get. So Pawtucket will get an awful lot of money. I think it's $46 million because they're an entitlement community. But some of the county's government will get a lump sum. It'll be divided. Again, I don't know exactly what the rubrics looks like, but I'm sure that. But nonetheless, the oversight will still. The folks on that oversight will have an eye on how that money is spent.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other questions? I have one question for you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Please, Representative Cardillo.
I just have one question. How are these 5 members picked?
So, I guess, the mayor's office would probably do just that, because the mayor's office is one, and then 2 people from the city council, and then 2 members from the general public, picked by the mayor or the city council, or the town manager, whoever that is.
Representative Barros, we have one piece of written testimony, and that's from Brian Daniels of the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns, and he points out a question that I had for you as well, which is that in some municipalities, the school district lies outside of City Hall, and there's $540 million, he says, in federal aid coming into school districts, and that oversight, I believe, is not covered by your resolution. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right. You're going to have another resolution to look for the school money? I mean, that's a lot of money, right?
Well, the thing is, I think the issue that I see is happening, I think before, when we talked about billions, it was a lot of money. Now we're talking trillions, almost like 1,000 billions. I mean, so numbers are just being flown all over, and I think I just came down from finance, and there is an awful lot of money out there being floated around. I mean, money that it's a one-time, and I think it's important that we use that money on this time wisely in order to, because it's not going to come again.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Then that closes the hearing on 6125. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Okay, getting to the end here. And we will now move to Representative Filippi's bill. Leader Filippi, let's take 5587. Representative Filippi, would you please present? an act relating to public utilities and carriers, transportation network company services allowed on Block Island, I guess. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With your permission, is it okay to remove a mask when I'm up here if there's no one around? Thank you. Thank you very much. This bill has been before the body, I think, for 3 years now, and it corrects an error that occurred when we passed our legislation to regulate transportation network services, I think 4 years ago. Since 1925-ish, I believe, somewhere in the 20s, the town of New Shoreham was given the exclusive authority to regulate its taxi businesses. That's because no one gets in a taxi on Block Island and travels to another town. It's simply an intra-town service. That's why there's no statewide regulation of the Block Island taxi businesses. They're regulated solely by the town of New Shoreham. When this bill was passed, I believe 4 or 5 years ago, having the statewide regulation of transportation network services, Block Island was not imbued with its continuing authority to regulate transportation services within its town. So right now, every town in the state has its taxis and transportation network services all regulated by the PUC. The PUC, Block Island is the only town in the state that has its transportation network services regulated by the state and its taxis regulated by the town. That poses a problem for us. We think that when you are looking at any transportation network, the same body should be regulating both. As you can see from the letter from the Public Utilities Commission, they acknowledge that Block Island is different than every town in that no one rents a cab or gets in an Uber or Lyft and travels across town lines. And that's why regulation of Uber and Lyft should but be with the town of New Shoreham, just like its taxi cabs for the past 90 years. I've read the testimony from Uber and Lyft, and also, remember their prior testimony with their fear that this would create some type of precedent that would be used. That's just not a risk. There's not many towns in the state of Rhode Island that are wholly contained on one island. The only closest thing I can think of is Prudence, and I believe that's part of another town. So this makes a lot of sense. Our taxi industry, a lot of times we talk about affordable housing, people who struggle. The cost of living on Block Island is frankly outrageous, and we'll come to that in the next bill. But the taxi business provides teachers, firefighters, police officers, people in grocery stores, plumbers, electricians. It provides them with supplemental income that they can use throughout the year to survive on Block Island. If they didn't have that supplemental income, many families wouldn't be able to make it. The fear is that Uber or Lyft would come out to Block Island and work for about 6 weeks a year, skim all the cream off the top, take off, and then our taxi cabs would be left, frankly, not with a viable business model. And then on top of that, the taxis operate year-round. If you fly out to the airport and you need to get picked up, there's always a taxi there. And many times they're not making money. They're doing it as a public service, and we would lose that public service if there was this cream skimming going on from Uber and Lyft. I know you probably got a bevy of emails. This was just scheduled 2 days ago. The taxi cab drivers just found out about it last night. I can assure you pretty much every single license holder supports this bill. The town council has submitted a resolution in support of it. It makes a lot of sense for my community, and I would urge your consideration of passage, please.
Any questions? First Vice Chair.
I can completely understand this bill. I totally agree with you on this bill. I'm really showing my hand here because really you are just one community, and knowing the island as most of us do, that is really the income for a lot of the people on that island. And for them to come and try to, like you say, skim off the cream, I totally would think that it would really ruin a lot of people's chances to stay on the island and live there. So I appreciate you bringing this bill forward.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
I see Representative Speakman also has a question.
So, Leader Filippi, this would protect the New Shoreham taxi companies or taxi owners from competition. Is that correct?
I don't know that that's entirely accurate, because the notion of protect them from competition intimates that maybe the town of New Shoreham could outright ban Uber or Lyft. I don't believe they can under this legislation. It would allow them to enact reasonable regulations. And I'll give you a for instance.
Thank you.
We have 34 taxi licenses. Uber or Lyft could go out there with 100 cars and run 100 Uber or Lyft services. So it would allow reasonable regulations, a number, qualifications maybe, hours of operation maybe. What those reasonable regulations are will have to be meted out between the town and Uber and Lyft. And if they're unreasonable, then a judge would not allow those regulations to go in effect.
But this provision would allow the town of New Shoreham to ban Uber and Lyft. I'm not saying that they would, but that if the town government
No.
decided that was the best strategy, they could ban?
No, shall have the exclusive power to prescribe rules and regulations. I don't take rules and regulations as the power to ban.
No?
No. And if you would like better language, we can work on it, but I see rules and regulations as regulation, not banning. I don't think the intent is to ban.
So what would a ban be if it's not a rule or a regulation?
Prohibit.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yep, thank you.
All right.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions from the committee? Representative Morales.
Leader Filippi, do you know of, and again, this does not have to be pertaining just to the state of Rhode Island, but do you know of any other towns, cities, municipalities across the country, or specifically in the East Coast, that, again, are able to regulate their own transportation? And again, be able to have provisions towards the ride-sharing companies we've talked about today, Uber, Lyft, et cetera.
So are you asking any type of transportation or just transportation network services, Representative Morales?
The latter.
Transportation network services. Oh, look, I remember there was an issue on Long Island last year where similar issues were happening. I'll have to find out nationwide.
Yeah, because I would just want an example of some of these like regulations that have been put in place. Like, for example, I know you cited earlier, like hours of operation, for example. Like, what cities have like told Lyft, like, these are the hours of operation you can operate in, and what have the results been?
Yeah, I know our state has a lot of regulations on Uber and Lyft, and I would assume that the town's regulations would be very similar. I think they're focused on the number. It would be the big concern for us. But I know the PUC has put on a whole bunch of regulations, and certainly the town's regulations would probably mirror that and probably go a little further, because I don't think our PUC regulates the number.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And First Vice Chair.
So
And that will conclude 5587. Stay right there, Representative Filippi, and we'll move to 5588. An act relating to state affairs and government for New Shoreham affordable housing eligibility. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have an enormous problem on Block Island with affordable housing and the cost of living. Our town attempts to apply the state standards, which is 120% of median income for eligibility for affordable housing. A police officer on the mainland could be making $60,000 and apply for a low to moderate income house. If someone made $60,000 on Block Island, they wouldn't be able to survive, period. So we have to pay our people more. It's $9 for a box of cereal, thousands of dollars for electricity a year. Propane is double. Everything is more expensive. So we're forced to pay our people more. And because we pay them more, they're now not eligible for affordable housing. And so our police are not eligible. Our teachers are not eligible. All these people that are eligible in other towns are not eligible for affordable housing because the cost of living on Block Island is so astronomical. We have to pay people, and it puts them outside of the state definition of who can apply and qualify for affordable housing. So all this does is say, instead of 120% of area median income, if you are in New Shoreham on Block Island, you can be eligible if you make up to 140% of net area median income for our affordable housing program. And I will say that it's really a fascinating thing on Block Island. If you're making under $120,000, you still can't afford a house. If you're making probably $160,000, $170,000, you can't afford a house. You know, these other towns, you can buy a house for $250,000. There's nothing on Block Island that's priced at a point that someone can afford other than those built through our affordable housing team on Block Island, which do a great job. We have an affordable housing tax. We're building units. It's just that so many of the people that do the work in our town that we need qualify out. And they qualify out, they're making too much money, but they can't afford anything outside of the affordable housing program. So once again, Block Island's very unique, and this is a bill that recognizes that uniqueness. Thank you.
Any questions? Representative Barrows. Please speak into the microphone, please.
So my question is, is there a requirement that if you have to live in the town in order to be a police officer or in order to be a fireman?
In our town?
Yes.
I mean, it's not a requirement, but it's a practical requirement because the last boat's at 7 o'clock, right? You can get to the island on the first boat at 9 a.m. You know, if you're a police officer, you need to be there. So there's not a requirement in the law or regulation that you have to be on Block Island to be a police officer, but you can't do the job unless you live there. It's just not going to happen.
So I guess the point I was getting at is that I think anyone who's actually going to New Shoreham, they know what they're getting themselves into. Because if I hear what you're saying correctly, that they're making a lot more money than the average policeman down here in Pawtucket or in Providence, there is an incentive for them to go there.
Well, I mean, you just can't look at one side of the equation, Representative Barrows, which is money in. It's about money out, too. Okay. And what are you left with at the end of the day? And I can assure you, the people who are policemen and women on Block Island have less money in their pocket at the end of the day than policemen and women on the mainland who are making more.
But they're also enjoying, so there is some benefit to them going there, is what I'm saying. I don't want to be liberal, but that was my initial question, is to find out whether or not there was a residency requirement which made them stay there.
There's no residency requirement, but for many people out there, that's where their children go to school, that's where their spouses have jobs, it's where their parents live. You know, it's not, you can't look at everything's not about money, Representative Barrows. Like, you're going to have people leave Block Island, and that's where their family has spent 300 years because maybe they can have an affordable house on the mainland, whereas maybe if we change this law, they could have an affordable house on Block Island and stay. And guess what? That's the guy who's putting out the fire at your house when it happens. That's the guy who's scraping people off the road when they get into a bicycle accident.
Well,
Let's, excuse me, Representative, we're not going to get into haves and have-nots. We're going to stick to the merits of what Representative Filippi put in front of us and the reasoning why. If you have a question to that, that's fine, but I can understand on both sides of the equation. And I think it was perfectly said on both sides.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Thank you.
Representative,
Leader
First Vice
Filippi,
Chair.
if this were to pass, and that would push up the eligibility requirements, then these folks who are now newly eligible would qualify for what programs?
So we're one of the only towns in the state that has met our 10% requirement. That's a rural town. I think we're the only one in the state.
I believe you're right about that.
So we take our affordable housing requirements seriously. We have a Block Island Housing Board. We have a 1% tax on rentals that we got through the legislature 5 years ago that provides a constant funding stream. And so our Block Island Housing Board is building new units. There's a new project going in within the next couple of years that's going to build, I think, 8 units near Champlin's Marina. They just put one in on the west side. There's one called the West Side 20, some call it Whoville. There's an active program on the island. We're doing our part. we're coming up with the money that many towns aren't. We're meeting the requirements that any towns aren't, but our people are priced out of it based on the statewide median income requirements.
So do I take it to understand then that there are vacancies in these developments? So you need to open up the eligibility more so that you can fill the units that you've built? Is that what you're suggesting, or?
No, there's not vacancy in the developments. It's
Okay.
just there's a large swath of people who don't have the opportunity to get into the lotteries we have to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, my concerns are if you push up the eligibility at the top, folks at the bottom might not have access to the pool of affordable housing. That's my concern.
Yeah, I understand. And one phenomenon we've seen with that is that the people that can meet the requirements actually can't afford the house. Because they have the mortgage, but then their utilities are 4 times what you pay, Rep. Speakman. So the phenomenon we're seeing is that the people that qualify within the existing RIDE 120%, they may be able to qualify on the mainland and make it on the mainland, but they can't make it on Block Island.
But this provision would not help them.
It would what?
This provision would not help those folks.
I don't think it would knock them out. It wouldn't knock them out. It would broaden the pool of people who can participate in the lottery.
Right, I understand that, and that's my concern. But I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand. And there's also rental options on the island. It's not a complete dearth of housing. You know, if someone can't afford to get into an affordable house, there are rental programs. We have a housing that takes Section 8. And there are other options available for people who maybe can't buy.
Thank you.
Okay,
You're welcome.
any other questions? Representative Morales.
Leader Filippi, given how expensive the cost of living is in Block Island, what is the median income for a resident in Block Island?
I don't know the median income, and I think it would be skewed because there's so many people who don't take traditional income out there because they're retired. We have a very large retirement population. We have a very large second homeowner population who's there maybe 4 months a year. So I don't know if the real estate market, if I could get you the median income, I don't think it would be reflective of total income on the island because there's a large capital gains element to that income that wouldn't be reported in the median income. And then on top of that, if you're trying to compare the median income to the housing market, you can't really make a comparison because such a large part of our housing stock is second homeowners, people who are vacationers. And so, you know.
Yeah, my intention for the question is I'm just trying to understand what the new income threshold would be in actual dollar amounts when we increase it up to 140%.
Understand. Why don't we get that to you? You know, our housing board was intending to give pretty detailed testimony, but they just found out about this, and so they called me and said, listen, we want to supplement the record with a letter, and they specifically will listen to this hearing and respond to any questions like yours.
Yes, that would be very helpful. As many details as we can get when it comes to a piece of legislation like this would be very helpful because of the fact that, just my only concern with this piece of legislation is that it would unintentionally create a precedent for other municipalities and towns to be like, hey, we also want to increase the area median income on what's eligible for affordable housing. But again, I understand Block Island is a unique situation, but at the surface, may not appear that way.
I understand, I appreciate that. We spoke about precedential value of Block Island regulations on the last bill, and it definitely, I would contest anyone who would say anything that's done on Block Island has precedential value for the mainland. But I appreciate your question, and we'll get you that data.
Any other questions?
Those data, excuse me.
Any more questions for Representative Filippi? Well, that will conclude. First Vice Chair, do you have anything?
No, I'm good.
No written testimony?
Oh, I'm sorry, there is written testimony. There was one written testimony by Melinda Lodge from Housing Network Rhode Island, and she is con House Bill 5588. And with that, I think we will close the hearing on 5588.
And to confirm, Madam Vice Chair, did they submit a letter in opposition?
A written testimony, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, thank you, Mr. Chair, thank you, members of the committee, and have a good night.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And before we adjourn, Representative Barrows, I need you on the record for attendance
Yes, Chairman.
and the vote
Holding all the bills.
on all the bills. And before we go, I'd like to just put into the record H6127, Representative Donovan's bill. There was no written testimony. On also H6128, Representative Amori. No written testimony. Also, H6139, Representative Place, no written testimony. And Senate Bill 24040, Representative Coyne, no written testimony. I make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Representative Barrows needs to go on the record for his votes.
He did.
With respect to a roll call vote,
Respect to a roll call.
Representative Barrows, House Bill 5479, 5587, 5588, 5633, 6093, 6125, 6126, and 6139. Motion was made by Representative Kazarian and seconded by Representative Fogarty to hold those bills for further study. Is that your vote?
Yes.
With respect to House Bills 6127 and 6128, Senate Bill 240, a motion was made by First Vice Chair Fogarty and seconded by Second Vice Chair Speakman to move for passage. Is that your vote?
Yes.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.